call the meeting to the Environmental Commission to order. It's 11 o'clock. First on business, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, roll call, please, or if you have it all squared away.
I do. We haven't seen Barb, Pope, Chris. Gretchen called and texted and said that she will be late. Kim is not coming and Charlotte is not available.
Okay.
Well,
Very good.
Wow.
Approval of the minutes, June 27, 2023. Anybody will make the motion?
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I was absent at the last planning board meeting. I think I know what went on. I know you were there, but want me to try and say what happened, or you want to just try and say it?
No, you go ahead and
I think the
say what
the
happened.
big thing on the agenda was that city has an ordinance for side yard setbacks for pools, 10-foot side yards for rear and side. But they introduced they want to introduce a 4-foot, I guess it's been approved now, but a 4-foot green space in addition to the setbacks. Plantings, they recommended that they select non-invasive plants, but that they didn't have to select from our list, from what I understand. And you can use an outbuilding, as part of, to be included in your setback in place of a planting. You can use an outbuilding for that. And the irrigation, hi, how you doing? I'm in the middle of something, real quick. And irrigation is recommended but not required to keep the plantings. And I think that's the way it ended up.
Yeah, pretty much so.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't think there was much modification to what you said, other than that with the plantings, we want the commission to give a list. That may have already been done. I can't remember.
I don't know whether
Oh.
we've given that list or not.
Mike, Gretchen forwarded a list to me
Okay.
that I sent around to everybody, including Erin.
Okay,
so
perfect.
that would be available.
Yes, okay. So the way words got messed up in the first place, and just to mention what happened, the ordinance came out stating that it was required that people use plantings from the Environmental Commission list. And that was not the intent originally. The intent was, what we want is for them to use plants, as many as they can from the Environmental Commission, but we're encouraging drought-tolerant native plants to the extent possible. So that was actually redone. We had to reintroduce the ordinance. So it was really a first reading again this past Tuesday. So we'll have second reading and public comment next meeting around. And then the approval will happen after that. So.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Is the wording on it, that these are recommended plants?
Yes,
That's right.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Baby steps.
Yeah, well, that's right. And like, I'm not sure, the most common screening you see in town is an arborvitae. And the emerald arborvitae is a drought-tolerant plant. Whether or not it's considered a native plant, and it's, one recommended by the commission, I didn't recall, but I mean, good news is that it's probably the most common screening that people use, and it is drought tolerant. So yeah, we want that ordinance to have that list in, so people are very clear about. Please take a look at these plants first and try to use them.
Is Erin taking the
I'm sorry?
Is Erin taking the information from jerseyyards.org and
Well, I was just
making
going to
it?
suggest that whatever list we have, we make sure Aaron gets it.
Merrill sent it.
I sent it around
Yes,
just because, well, for everybody's clarification, but
no one has yet to actually take a subset from
I
the
haven't heard
1,000
anything back
that are
from
on the-
anybody I sent it to.
Okay,
So if it's possible for you to make up a definitive list or to make
okay.
some sort of recommendation,
And an appropriate number of species would be 10 to 12 recommended species?
yeah.
If you give more than that, it's overwhelming.
Well, that's right, and they should be, keep in mind, they should be screening plants. I mean, so we need something that's tall and fills
That's
in.
fine.
And fast-growing, really.
Fast-growing is best,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
One other subject came up, if I could do this now, and I'm afraid I'm forgetting the name of the cypress tree, but the question was asked.
Leland?
The Leland cypress, which grows extremely tall. The question to the Environmental Commission is this a desirable plant in town? And I'm not sure.
Is that on our list?
I didn't see it. I didn't look, to be honest with you, but I did. This is a tree that grows to like, I mean, the problem was people are saying
Cypress, was it Leyland?
Leland?
Leland?
They're using them for screening, and they grow to 40 feet tall. And that was the question: is do we really need to have 40-foot talls? Should we be discouraging 40-foot tall screening plants in people's yards? And I said I would ask the Environmental Commission, see if they had an opinion
We'll
on that subject.
figure that out
Okay.
somehow. We'll figure it out.
It'd be, yeah, everybody's input would be appreciated.
Mike, you, go ahead.
I want to introduce Paul Dean, he's our new city engineer, and Councilman Yeager asked me to give you an update on the Dune project
Okay.
we're building in the city, so Paul, give an update.
Yeah, so Lomax, we gave him the final go-ahead, so he submitted that plan up to DEP, just a clarification of whether or not we needed permits or not to do some of the projects listed in the plan. We're just waiting to hear back from Lomax on whether or not those permits should be permits. Or whether they should be. As soon as we have that, we can start looking at getting some proposals together on at least one or two of the initial projects that were listed in that plan.
Those are DEP permits?
Yes.
All right, any other questions for the engineer while we have him here, environmentally?
No, I can do the desal plan. It's something I have to update today, but I've got all my notes from that. I'm pretty familiar with the project, so I'm good reviewing that with everybody.
Have
So-
the permit, the applications have been submitted, obviously, but
Well,
is
it's not
there
an
a
application,
potential
it's just a
timeline?
clarification to the DEP, so they don't really have a timeline, that are regulatory to get back to us, so I don't know how long they're going to take to get back to us.
Okay. When I have submitted applications to them in the past, there was like an application,
Yeah, this isn't an application process, this is just a consistency determination, so it's not really an
so
application.
could be this year, or could be 2 years from now?
No, I would anticipate within a month or two,
I see, okay.
but with them, you never know.
No.
How are the plants selected? How do you?
For
which
what?
Type of plants for,
Well, the plan guides us, so once we have the okay that we don't need permits, then we'll develop an actual plan for it, that would detail to a contractor what we're going to do, what we're going to remove, what we're going to replace and revegetate with.
And then that's part of the application?
Well, no, that would be part of a scope of work. Once we find out that we don't need permits, which that's what we anticipate from Lomex, that we're going to find out from, then we'll put together an RFP with a contractor, which would detail what we're going to do.
DEP would be out of that picture?
Correct, correct. Yeah, once the DEP gives us a consistency determination that we're clear and we don't need permits, then we can go to work.
And, you know, I had promised before that, before they decide finally what plantings are going in the dunes, that it comes to this
Once,
commission.
once I, I work with the purchasing office, once we develop an RFP, most definitely we would bring that RFP back
Great.
to here so that you guys can take a look at it, and make sure that it's consistent with what you guys are looking for.
Okay.
Cool.
Nothing else, thank you for your,
Thank you, Mike.
appreciate what you do.
Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Anything
Mike.
guys need?
Thank you, Paul.
All right, thanks.
Mike, do you want to talk about the desal plant?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, just to go back to the beginning again, you know, we got a $30,000 grant, and with that grant, we hired a design company, CME, and they began the preliminary design of the desal plant, which happened. Since then, we've applied for another grant. We have won an award for $600,000. Which is basically money to be used to finish the design of the plant. And of course, CME will do that. They're working hand in hand with a company called Triad to get the financing done. So we got that. No money yet, but we will need to pass a resolution once the money is ready to be released, and show the state that we're ready to go with this. And then, but these guys have already done they have plant process schematics and permit drawings that they'll need to get permits from the DEP. They've had many meetings with the DEP. They've actually had meetings with the folks from iBank, and iBank, of course, is the infrastructure bank that we will have to use to get as much funding as we can to do this plan. You know, at this point in time, the plan estimate is $33 million, and there's like another $6 million in infrastructure of piping throughout the city that has to be upgraded before the plant goes into full operation. But nonetheless, I mean, the good news is that we have the money to finish the design. Once that design is finished, it will be submitted to the iBank, and then we think that could be done before the end of this year. And then once the iBank gets it, you know, we have to wait for their review and approval, and also they're going to tell us how much money we're getting. And of course, we have Van Drew, we have Booker, and we've got Menendez all on board with this. Booker and Van Drew are the two that are really strong supporters. And of course, with the Coast Guard being such a big user of our water, they use 18 to 20% of everything we basically produce. We think we have a pretty good chance of getting a significant amount of funding before it's all said and done. But we're not going to know anything until final design's submitted to iBank. And the DEP has to approve everything, of course. The good news is these guys have met with the DEP often. The DEP, of course, is very supportive, and they've been just fine with everything that we've shown them so far, where the design's going. So that's basically where we're at. Maybe end of the year, we'll find out.
Be nice if they could divert some of that unspent COVID monies to projects like this, where they know it's going to be well spent.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
I would hope.
Yes.
Just me thinking. Is there money out there, Mike, for this kind of stuff?
Yes,
Good.
there's money.
Okay.
And to put it in perspective, there are a lot of people looking for that money. According to the iBank, we have a very high ranking in the scheme of everybody looking for money. So, like I said, they were here, they saw the plant, they saw, all of our infrastructure and the issues, and they're very supportive and feel it's pretty important. Again, understanding that we service 3 communities, plus one of the most important one, the Coast Guard, which is expected to expand somewhat in the future.
That's a good hook,
Yeah.
really. Anybody, any other comments on that? Questions? Justine, you have anything to say on what your, basis, the brochure or the service ads or anything? You have anything to say?
No, I'm waiting for the bundle of the brochures from Inkwell.
Okay,
I contacted them again, asking for an update, and I still haven't gotten it, so I will just keep every week and a half, 2 weeks, calling or emailing over. And for the Star and Wave, it's running. I don't know if anyone has seen it, so I did bring this week's. Have you guys seen it?
I have not seen it.
Oh, well, what's
I've been away, but that's why,
pretty cool,
was it in last week's?
this is the July 19th, so every other week, or it's running every week, but it's alternating
Okay,
the two. So this, it's a little bit blurry, but,
good.
John, it wasn't the last time, so it's not a resolution issue. I think that was a printing
How
issue.
long are they gonna run that?
Until the end of the summer.
Good.
And John Kutza, the guy who does the design layout, he's charging us for a quarter page, even though it's larger than that.
Okay.
And it's towards the front of the newspaper.
Justine, I just received the first bills from the Star and Wave, and I turned them in today for
Great.
payment.
Okay, cool.
Okay?
Thank you.
Nice, Justine, good,
Thanks.
really.
Hopefully, people are seeing it.
Yeah.
I did happen to have 2 slightly unpleasant conversations with neighbors of mine who were hosing down their driveways recently. Well, I live on Yacht Avenue and it floods, and so then the marina muck is all over everything, and people want to hose it down. And so then, every high tide, they're hosing down the bottom 2 feet of their house and their entire driveway, which they're very large and all cement, and they're running the hose for 2-3 hours regularly. So I went out and spoke to them very politely, but they were not happy with me
Where is this?
on Yacht Avenue.
Oh,
What are you gonna do? Like, I was getting yelled at. It's okay.
Just put a
No.
brochure on their door.
Yeah, all we can do is just give them the information. They didn't believe me that this has been on the books since the 90s. But it is what it is. And, I was very polite and respectful and, talked about the connection to the desal plan and water usage. And, I understand that this is a problem living here. You want to maintain your property, but maybe we can try to sweep it off, or, I don't know.
All right.
it's always flooded.
Yep, probably shouldn't have been built down there.
And the area in back, the tidal flooding in back of our units, the meadows, it's been full almost all the time,
Yeah,
much more so than in the past. I have a neighbor who tracks it.
Bob
But
McLennan.
it's a lot more than, this is great, but we just have to keep on getting the message out there.
Yep.
Because probably a lot of those people don't even get the Star and Wave or something, being second homeowners, and they're just not in tune with the town. I could talk to my husband, he writes the column, The Other Side, and the whole purpose of The Other Side is, it's the other part of the story of Cape May. It's not just about, the beaches and Victoriana and downtown, it's the other stories. And I get more and more people that come up to him or me and say, oh, I read your article, I read that last article. So people might read an article, so maybe I'll talk to him about writing an article about this. But I'm seeing more and more with the construction of the new homes, more water-thirsty landscaping that's happening. And it's continuing to happen. And even some of the projects that we've made comment in the application review, planning board application review, we tell them to use native plants and we're making these recommendations, but they're not. And I don't know where who's checking on that.
That's the whole, if you could just give me a list of some of those that you know that have not done that. I mean, they all stand there and tell you face to face that they're going to do this, right, at the meetings.
I look at one every day when I leave my neighborhood.
Okay, so-
It's,
Let's just give it to the building inspector's office, and they're supposed to do these reviews, and the engineer at least does.
yeah.
So let's just try one. Let's just see what
Okay.
we do, okay? Let's just try one. I mean, there's probably more than one, but let's just pick one.
I was having dinner with one of the council members recently, and we were talking about enforcement and how a lot of the residents kind of think that there's like a person that is hired by the city to drive around town and look for violations, right? I mean, I kind of thought that too, right? But there isn't, and so maybe also educating the public on the fact that like it's our responsibility to notify the city of violations.
Well, there is a code enforcement,
But
they don't, they're being proactive, you mean?
Yeah, they don't patrol looking for it.
It would have to be brought to them.
Exactly.
Well, let's just try one and see what happens. I mean,
Okay.
Because Craig is supposed to, I mean, well, they do have a hammer. I mean, it is the resolution, that's what it says, right? So if they don't do it, then we'll see how far they want to go to enforcement. It's an age-old problem. It's never, ever going to go away.
Yeah.
It's infuriating, though, when you're driving in a rainstorm and you see somebody's sprinkler on,
I know.
because they didn't put in that shut-off valve.
Yeah.
Do you, if your husband would write a column about it, or maybe in Hope would do something on the radio about it, if we could access other forms of media?
You want to come in and be interviewed on the radio? He's always looking for someone to interview on his, he does, well, I know. It's really not a big deal. I mean, I guess I can do it. I'll do it. But, he's always, I don't know how many people actually listen to his show, but,
You have a voice for radio, you do.
I'll do it. I don't mind, but but there's a little tangent on this, but maybe it's under new business.
Go ahead.
I don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it just talking about enforcement and what rules and regulations we have out there. One of the things is enforcement of the landscape recommendations that we make and whether or not the developers are doing what they promised they would do. I've mentioned before about the benches on the promenade that people put memorial plastic flowers on. And I personally wish the city would address that because it does become litter. And, to me, the bench itself is the memorial. Why do we have to decorate them? And I know that's a very touchy subject. I've brought this up before, but I think it's something that maybe city council should look at. And then the other thing that's just been bugging me is the balloons that realtors use the helium balloons, that they're having an open house. And personally, I saw one take flight, as the realtor was tying it to the sign. I believe there's a city ordinance that you're not allowed to release balloons on the beach. I think that happened a couple of years ago. But why are we just letting them be decorations? The realtors can get those feather flags that are reusable, or the type of balloons that car dealerships have adopted. They're not helium. They won't take flight. I think that's something that the city should look at. So those are a couple of new business things. I don't know if it means a letter, a memo from the Environmental Commission to council to look at that, about adopting an ordinance. But that brings me back to, I did send the memo to City Council about Harborview Park, and I have heard nothing back. And I emailed it to all council members, and then I didn't hear anything back. And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe they didn't get it. Maybe I didn't go through the proper channels. So I called the clerk, and I said, how do we make sure council members see this? And I sent it to her, and she said she would make sure that it was available to council. So, Mike, do you know, has council talked about Harborview Park?
Not in a meeting, but I can tell you that between each one of us, when we're allowed to outside of the meeting, there have been discussions, and I think, again, what the mayor is doing is he's looking for funding, and we'd like to see, obviously, a significant redo of Harborview Park. I believe that Maureen may be working on that. She's probably the most familiar. She knows what we're trying to do there, what you've suggested to do there, and they may want to even go a few steps farther, but it's not been ignored, and I apologize. Normally, we as individuals don't respond to those letters.
Okay.
The mayor, we're hoping, should, and maybe I'll mention to him that perhaps a note back would be appropriate, but I can tell you that we are definitely working towards getting Harborview Park the attention that it deserves.
I mean, I look at the Environmental Commission as an advisory commission to bring things to the attention of council, and I guess maybe just that, because if we're going to bring up some other things that we recommend that council look at, just acknowledgement, or, okay, we hear what you're saying, we'll take this under consideration and we're looking into it, or we've assigned a council member to look further. It's just sometimes I sent that in and I was like, what happened to it? Where'd it go?
I think what I'll do is I'll just check with the mayor and see if he minds if it, I'm assuming it's been in the protocol in the past, but I'll just ask him if it's okay for me to respond to the commissions and the advisory committees that I work with when they write to council. Everybody deserves a response,
I mean, if you send the memo to Erin, that's the clerk, so you would think that it would.
She passes everything
So I think,
along. I've seen what Gretchen's written, for sure. We all have.
I think, let's just, for the time being, it's the only thing we can do. Send a memo, like one about the balloons, say. Just send it to Erin and say, please pass this along to members of council.
Well, I don't mind sending the memo. I'm sending it on behalf of the Environmental Commission. So something like, if we want to take on the balloon issue, I have to make sure that as a commission, we're all on board with that. The bench issue, I don't know, like how we want to proceed with that. I know it, I get it. We're talking a sensitive subject here. But, there are things, I know that the town takes pride in some environmental measures that it's done, whether it's the charging station and solar panels, and I've seen press releases, and I guess they put in the cool paving, there's been things. We can do more to be an eco-friendly town. And I was just thinking about these little things, small changes, but making a big difference. The small change, let's not use helium balloons. Let's not do these plastic memorials. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can inquire as to, there's nothing wrong with council having a discussion unless the council says they don't want to discuss that just yet, but I'm okay. Actually, why don't we have a few of the items open to discussion? So, but the balloons and I'm not sure how I'm going to go about the bench discussion, but I can talk to everybody individually and see where they're at. Because if everybody is on the same page, it's a perfect thing to do in a council meeting, to have a
At the
discussion.
very least, somehow it might get back to us of what some of their thoughts are, through Mike. If they're talking about it, and they say about, especially about, say, the decorations on a bench, that they don't even want to go anywhere near it, maybe that's their response. Maybe that's the response
Right,
that we have.
right.
Okay. But at least we know that were contacted about it.
Mike, do you want to put a motion out about at least the helium balloons and vote on it?
Well, Mike was just going to casually bring it up to the council.
Why don't you let me, I mean, I can, if you want me to, before you do that, you can do that, and then I can go to the council people and say, hey, the commission, has a strong feeling about this subject. We should perhaps discuss it.
I would rather Mike casually bring it up to council first.
All right.
Okay,
I'll-
we could
I'll
talk
do
about
that,
it, then,
And by the next meeting, I'll
Okay.
come back with the response.
I'm just asking
No,
if you
that's-
wanted,
No, I like the casual part of this first.
Okay.
Only because. One thing about the reports that we write when our comments to the from the Environmental Commission on a particular project that the resolution is drawn from, Craig reads verbatim our comments. It's part of the record. I mean, so when he's reading our Environmental Commission report, he reads it exactly, and the people that are standing, they're listening to this whole thing. So if we come up with something that we really know for sure that they're just blatantly, not doing it, let's just bring it to the construction office. At the very least, that's a start. Okay, and then Craig, ultimately it's going to get to Craig, because Craig, that's Craig's name on that thing. And if he knows that they're not doing this stuff, that maybe there'll be a little bit stronger wording next time that we put it in a resolution. I don't know, maybe that's a possibility. But that's the way it's worked right now. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that, but that's what he does. And it's part of the record. I mean, I don't know how else they're going to get around it if they're planning stuff that they're not doing. And they're actually, if you hear the tape, they're saying, yes, we will do this. I mean, they're telling us that they will do this, so. All right. Shade Tree we're trying to get a hold of Shade Tree to appear at a meeting. I'm not sure what's going on there.
I called, was it Sue? Was it?
Ruth Ann.
Stewart. I called her several times. She did get back to me eventually, only to say that she had recently resigned from the committee, so she's no longer a
Okay.
member. I asked her who might we reach out to, and they mentioned Jay Schatz, and I have his phone number, and I will. Am I at leisure to invite him to our?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay,
Just as long as you tell Merle that
Yeah.
what you're doing, that's all. So if he's going to show up, just tell Merle that he's going to show up.
Okay.
If he doesn't, I don't want to say good luck with that, but
You're the second person who has
Okay, but I mean,
suggested.
he is
this
the
may be a
chairman.
challenge.
He is the chairman, so I mean, I suppose that's where you ought to go.
I'll give him a call and see
Okay.
what's up.
All right. And Kim, I guess, was
Is-
going to do something, but she's not here today.
She's not here. Did you want to talk about the Ocean Fest?
I guess I haven't. I know I've missed meetings. Summer is tough for me.
I thought we talked about it, I guess not. I
Did-
wasn't. I
Did
guess
we,
I guess
did we
you didn't
not?
hear the-
I mean, it was a nice event, great participation by environmental organizations and eco-friendly artists. It started off with a bang. It was great to see lots of families with young kids there, and then it kind of quieted down. So, it was the big weekend of the Barefoot Music Festival, and then MAC had some kind of craft event, I believe. So there's other things, and it got really, really windy, which was a bit of a challenge. But it's a nice formula for an environmental focused event. It meets the mission of the Nature Center to be involved in it. It can be a lot of work. We could always use more volunteers. So I've been, I've been thinking a little bit about what's the next step. Do we continue with this? Do we change it? I've often played with the idea, maybe we do it. Do we do something in the summer? I've thought about doing like an evening event instead, just like there's National Night Out. I thought about doing Nature Night Out. And with all the people, maybe that's what we want. We want to get these visitors and the renters and all of that to come to the festival and learn about our water conservation rules. So I don't know. It's something to think about. We haven't had a chance to recap the festival with the committee members, so I'm just speaking about my thoughts. I really can't say what everybody else thought. Justine, I don't know if you have any comments. Meryl, you were there.
We did have more volunteer involvement from the commission this year, so that was wonderful. I felt very supported at the table, which was cool. And I did notice what Gretchen said about it being very busy in the morning and then it dying down in the afternoon, likely due to conflicting events throughout the city. So
Maybe,
summer's crazy with things going on, and selecting dates is probably something that we can be more strategic about in the future.
it could be in the summer, it could be a weekday thing. And if it's we can maybe meet the mission in fewer hours, too, instead of 6 hours. Do a 3-hour event. Again, looking at the model of National Night Out. I don't know, just an idea.
After you recap, after you guys get together and figure out where you want to go, you can get back to us.
Yeah.
And we'll help you out as best we can with that. Can we do that? Mm-hmm. All right. You walked in just after Mike made a comment. Go ahead, you had something?
No, I'm just clearing.
About the Leyland cypress. Is that on our list of species that we recommend to have planted?
Well, it's not a native. It's been, the thing about Leyland cypress is that it's a quick-growing
Somebody made, that was the comment.
border
It was too-
plant.
6 feet a year.
And the thing about it too is like we've seen in the past, if you overuse a non-native and then what happens if they become diseased? So you could use eastern red cedar instead of Leyland cypress. If you have a wet area, you could even use Atlantic white cedar. Those are native evergreens that can be used as a screening tree. So there's other choices that we could be doing. And
So we're going to, Randy and I are gonna put together a list of 10 to 12 screening
Look up Leland Cypress.
for this pool ordinance. You had emailed the Jersey site, but I think council wants a condensed list. So if we put together a rough draft of it, can we send it to you?
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. The one thing, I mean, I would just put that with a caveat, because whenever you tell that these are the 10 things and you overplant those 10 things in an area, you're limiting, nature wants diversity, not to be limited. But I get you, but I just think that you could say these are recommended, but please also reference this for a more detailed list of options that are out there. I thought about the same thing, but I was just like, do I want to go there? Do I want to be so,
We worded it, these are examples
yeah,
of native species, but not an, exclusive.
And still give the reference.
yeah. I mean, I tell you, the Environmental Commission years ago created a brochure on purple loosestrife because everybody was planting that. And Evelyn Lovitz, who was a former board member, a Nature Center volunteer, came in and she's like, have you seen all the purple loosestrife that everybody's planting around town? And she asked if she could run off copies of the brochure, and I did that for her. She was going to go, put it on the doors of some of these places. And then she was like, well, maybe that's not the way to do it because they probably have renters in there and they're not even going to see it. So I said, well, you could contact the tax assessor and get the addresses and try to mail it to them in a friendly way. These are problem plants. Purple loosestrife is a major invasive plant in the Northeast. It's starting to grow in the wetlands around here. Pretty plant, and I could tell you, it's popping up everywhere. It's in front of many of the commercial establishments on the beachfront now. And so there was an effort years ago to educate people about that, but then it's kind of died off. And now it's coming back. And if you drive around town and you look at all of the new landscaping, it's pretty much homogeneous and it's the same. It's the hydrangeas and Leyland cypress and privet and turning into the Hamptons. Pretty, but it's we're an ecologically important place in the world, Cape May, for migratory birds. And we have to start looking at ways we can kind of enhance that. It brings in millions of dollars in tourism for our area. So anyway, I'll look at the list, but I think we just have to make sure that we're not just saying just 10 things.
Noted over there, yeah.
You said white cedar, but you said a different cedar before.
Eastern red cedar and Atlantic white cedar are
Wait,
evergreen.
Eastern
Red cedar,
Cedar.
American holly, and
And what was the white cedar?
Atlantic white cedar, which grows in wetter spots.
And American holly.
Now, they do have a variety of eastern red cedar that is, there's a name for it, and I'm sorry, can't think of it right now, but it's like a selection of one that's going to be more tall and narrow. So that could be a choice. Although purists, in terms of native plant, don't like any cultivars. But
Any other comments for the good of the order? Yeah? We've gone through the agenda.
For next month's agenda, can we add the Roundup research
Okay.
discussion? No, Randy's been working on that, and in the next few months, we would like to present council with something on.
Wasn't Chris working on
looking-
that? Wasn't Chris working on that?
Chris is working on the letter to the police department
Okay,
for the EVs. Kim was on Dark Sky.
right.
Barbara was on 115% lot coverage for new pools, and Randy was on Roundup. So it would just be nice.
They're going to continue on.
To
They'll
follow
continue
up
the next
on
meeting.
those. And I know he's made a lot of progress on the Roundup, so it seems like that could be next up in terms of potential ordinances to try to introduce to council.
Good.
I don't know. So can we add it?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I guess that's it. Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Shut off your mics.